Hello everyone, if you want to learn about kinetic typography, if you want to learn about some animation, if you want to get in Fresco, Illustrator, and After Effects, stick around, we're doing that today. Hello, we're here with Kameron Davis. Hi Cameron, nice to see you.
How's it going, Andrew?
So good. A special shout out to our friends in chat. We have a lot of people from the freelance and business and stuff community, the Fabus community, if you see that in the chat.
Shouts out.
Nice to see you. Hello everyone. As always, if you have questions, this is a live stream. It is live. Let us know your questions in the chat. If you're watching on Behance, we love you over there. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm watching that chat as well. Let me know what you want to know as we start working. And today, what are we working on, Cameron?
So today we are working on an illustrative lettering motion poster. So with a lot of things I do, I try to use as many apps as possible. I always use it as a way to learn a little something in each app.
Yes.
So we'll start in Fresco, where we'll letter, and then we'll move that from Fresco and kind of my workflow on how I get it out of Fresco into Illustrator and Photoshop. And then we'll build some pieces or maybe draw them here and then move those pieces over also.
Sweet. And not a lot of people, we don't have a lot of Fresco streams here. And so can you talk a little bit about what Fresco is, when you would use it, how you use it, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, so Fresco is more illustrative piece, more of an illustrative app. You can go in and kind of build, draw out whatever you kind of need. I think it works very well if you're used to using Procreate. Fresco works just as well as Procreate. So I use that when I go and do my lettering. I like to hand letter instead of like, some people will type out fonts and then manipulate from there, but I like to hand letter. So I like somewhere where I can kind of get down and dirty in the pixels. So
let's do it. Let's hop in.
Let's hop in. So I don't know why I do this. I've learned that building in square sizes is kind of like the hardest thing you can do. But I like building my lettering projects in a square Instagram size. So I'll normally open up a square file and then I will come in and kind of lay out some lines on like where I want things to go. So the phrase that we're doing today is go with your gut. So I liked it. It was four words. They're all around. The two words go with are about the same size as your gut. So it kind of works in that way.
Do you ever find yourself changing your copy because it's like, is more balanced if I say it this way?
I did. Yeah. I did already. Because the other piece of it is supposed to say, when in doubt, go with your gut. And then before it said, whenever you feel like you need to go with your gut is what it was originally. And I was like, that's terrible. So it happens all the time. But basically I'll come in here and then I'll lay down some, can I move this mic?
Oh, yes. Studio Manager Paco, that was his back chat. As always, if you have questions for me, if you have questions for Cameron, if you have questions for Paco, the Studio Manager, toss those into chat. We are watching YouTube. We're watching Behance. Nice to see you. Hi, Amy. We had some shout outs to Doc Reed, some friends in chat. Bad Lucky Studio, one of the best out there.
Amazing.
Ethan Silva, check out Bad Lucky Studio if you haven't. Incredible, amazing, the best work. And the nicest person ever.
Ever.
Okay, so we're in Fresco. We're going to be drawing some stuff. Let's go for it.
One thing that I really like about Fresco is they have a lot of brushes already preloaded. So I was able to kind of come in here, and then I always like using something that is a little dirty. So you'll see what I mean by that when I go in. So there's this lettering spot, and then there's a brush called Chunk. So basically I'll come and kind of test out the brush and see what I like. But if you can see up close, you see there's some texture already coming from the brush.
Yes.
So I will use that most of the time to kind of set up how my letters look. So let's start off with a kind of a straightforward, let's go back. Recent.
I love the journey of like cycling through different brushes just to be like, it's too like muddy and I want it to be more sandy. And like you're trying to justify to yourself, like, what is the actual texture that I want on this brush?
So I'll come and I'll draw a straight line, hold, and then line it up. So I'm basically making boundary boxes for my piece. And then I'll load the selection, or I'll come here and duplicate selection, and then, like I said, building the boundary box for where I want everything to fall, and then.
So right now we're kind of just working on a grid, and I think not a lot of people realize that like most of the people that do lettering are working off grids. It's not just like going in freehand and like, oh, it all like sort of falls into place. There's a lot of grids that you don't see, a lot of sketch that you don't see, and that's fine. If you are working in Fresco and it doesn't look great, or you're just getting started, or you don't know how to draw, just draw until something happens. It's sometimes the perfect process is just mess up until it's right. Which is kind of what we're doing today. We got a little bit more of a plan than going in blind, but we are going to work with a lot of sketch and then land in a final pretty well.
So let's say this is where we feel good. It fills up most of the square box, but we want to save a little bit. So that's kind of our frame, and then we'll merge all these pieces together so that we make sure we don't draw on top of them, which I've done so many times. You're like, what am I drawing on top of? So you'll come make another layer, and then we'll go back to our original brush that we started with, lettering, and that chunk brush. So what I like to do is to set stroke width, I use the brush. So basically I want to make this really thick. And then I'll come in here. We have go, so I'll come in here, push a little too hard. I want it to be a little smaller. And I will start drawing the letters out. So.
And someone in chat is saying, I work with no guardrails. Jesus, take the vectors. That's it. Just blindly flailing a pen. We do have a poll up in chat. So if you want to, throughout the stream, we will be running some polls. And that'll be a great way for you to interact with us, for us to understand you a little bit better, chat, because we love you. We want to know about you and your creative process. So if you are on Behance, you can head over to YouTube, and we do have a poll up there for you that you can vote in. The question is, do you use guides? Yes, no, or sometimes. Let us know what you do with your guides over on YouTube. If you're on Behance, the mod's going to drop the link to that poll as well, so you can go in there. All right, so we're getting gritty.
Yeah, and so with this, the type look, the way I want it to look, I want it to be kind of a reverse font. So normally downstrokes are the thickest, but on this, we're going to do cross strokes. So I'm now going to take my eraser and kind of start. This is where you start kind of manipulating what you've put down, and I'll start erasing some of the downstroke.
Yes, and I think this is such a great tip for lettering. I think people try to draw with the like thick and thin.
Yes.
Just erase stuff.
And I've seen people throw up like a solid layer, and they're basically just erasing from that layer to get what they're looking for.
Yep. Think of your eraser as just another brush to help, like a refined brush.
Yeah. And then so I kind of want this to be a little thicker, so I'm going to come in here and thicken it up.
Ooh. Chunk.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that I make, I like to make it really gritty, textured. I always say there's a lot in that chaos. There's a lot of like beauty, and people sometimes we don't take the time we need. We think things need to be perfect, but it's fun to kind of go against that perfection a little bit, and I do that in my work all the time.
Do you ever do stuff physically to mess it up? Like, are you ever printing and scanning and tearing and that kind of stuff?
All the time. Scanning's my new favorite thing. Yes. So after we make what we make today, we don't have a scanner here, else I would be using it. I will probably go home and then scan it all in and then print it and then scan it and then re-upload it that way. I don't know. There's just something about it that I don't know. I'm a process guy, so I just love to see that kind of stuff and get to touch it and use it and make stuff that way.
Yep.
So
it is nice. I am the similar way. I love scanning everything, and I actually found my scanner like on a sidewalk outside with a free sign on it, and I was like, yep, that's the one. That's the one that I need for all of the like
that's my baby.
Super messed up scans that I need.
That's
like,
awesome.
Take a hammer to it. It's a little bit broken. Everything looks weird, but that's what we want.
Okay, so we got go, and then we'll kind of go and make the next word. Go with will be your next word. And so, again, same process.
And when you're doing this, are you kind of just working off of this letter looks good? Are you usually working with us like reference, or are you just like, oh, I know how I want to draw this in my head, and that's what it is?
Most of the time it is I have a reference.
Okay.
I'm a reference guy. I feel like going to find references is a way to kind of like cheer on your design friends, like, because you'll go and you're like, that is super dope, so you can go comment on it and then grab it and then be like, what can I kind of get out of this? But I feel like every designer loves that feeling of going and looking for references. Yes. And I sometimes have to like slow myself down because I'll be like 2 hours into it, still looking for references. I'm like, come on, man, you got to start working sometime.
Yeah, it's like finding the perfect sample. Like you gotta get that inspiration and then retell it in your own voice of how would I say this? How would I do that?
1,000,000%.
Ooh, this is looking really fun. And I actually really like what just happened. Like everything was hitting those grids, and the bottom of that W got like that weird slant on it. And we were kind of just like, yep, that's what it, 100%. It gives it like that little bit of character, and those happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say,
for sure,
make it a little bit more magical.
And then we'll kind of take the sides down. And then something I do that, I don't know if you're supposed to do this, but this is how I do it. But I'll come in here, and sometimes if it's like, I feel like it's going to go out of frame, I'll just go in here and then I'll load the selection, transform it, and then I'll just squeeze it. Just squeeze it on in.
Yes, so many designers, I felt a great disturbance in the force of designers screaming about just stretching type. I feel like that's such a like taboo thing to do.
It is.
Do it. I do it all the time. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think at some point in design school, someone's like, don't stretch type because they made it so intentional. And of course, we have the hoods in the chat who are like very specific type designers. I have stretched your fonts. I'm so sorry. It is what it is. I think if it lends itself to the style you're going for, do it wrong.
Yes.
Do it wrong if it looks right.
And sometimes you have a certain space to fill, and if you don't do it, then I can't use your type. So
exactly.
Do you want me to use your type or not? Yeah. That's really the question.
Honestly, it's their fault.
Yeah. Do you want me to? This doesn't fit this perfect application that I need it for. Do you want me to use it?
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to squish it.
We did have a question in chat, which I think was interesting, is where does this love for messed up fonts, of texture, of all that, where does that come from for you?
A lot of it is from like comic books. So my comic books, anime, when I was growing up, the year I remember is like fourth grade. Fourth grade was just like that year where Dragon Ball Z was hitting, and like everybody was just into it. And I just remember like comic books were everywhere, and it's like I was reading One Piece the other day, and you just see some of the way that they did the type through these like pieces, like these comics and these animes, was just amazing to kind of see, and it added so much to a piece that I was like, I want to be able to do those things. It took me a little bit as an adult to figure out kind of where that came from, but it was from a love of that kind of like nerdy, geeky type stuff. But it's all over anime and comic books, and I just feel like people don't classify anime and comic books as art, but it's 100% in art form. And I wish we would teach kids with that instead of where we start with art most of the time. You know what I mean?
I was not good at art class. I still cannot draw well, but you want me to draw Goku or Krillin?
Yes.
I got it. Like that's what I got. And the same thing, of going through school and being inspired by these unique shapes, by the unique type, by like the background design, the textures, all of that is so inspiring. And so I agree. Like it is a good, fun way to learn about art.
Yeah, and that my son will be learning that way. We're hip hop and anime and comic books are where we're starting.
Yes, in video games, Chris is saying.
Video games.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so chat, you have responded in our poll, and it looks like about 60% of you say sometimes, and I think that would be the consensus, that like every now and then you get into a project, you're like, all right, we're doing grids on this one, and then you get in a little bit and you're like, yeah, we're over it. Yes. And Andrew is a Krillin fan? Yeah, absolutely. What are you talking about? Like, who isn't a Krillin fan?
Krillin's the man.
And someone saying The Last of Us. Amy says The Last of Us, favorite game, favorite storyline, absolutely. And Paloma raising that kid right. That is correct.
Yeah. Something funny about me is like sometimes I don't have the patience for video games, but I will 100% watch somebody play.
Yes.
Like I'll watch streams with people play for hours, and I'm like, I don't know why I don't have the patience, but this is doing it for me.
Yes.
Because the storylines are awesome most of the time, especially The Last of Us.
One of my friends has the greatest icebreaker question ever. We sit down and he just goes, "So what do you use YouTube for?" And I was like, that's such a great icebreaker question because everybody's YouTube's different.
Yeah.
And so one of my friend's dad says, he goes, "Oh, I use it to watch people play video games." And he's like, "I can't play video games because I don't understand how to play them, but I want to watch like Assassin's Creed because I think it's an interesting story." And so he's like, "I watch it like a movie." And I'm like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally get that.
And there's like hours, and you're just sitting there like going through it. So
Yes.
I don't know. I love that about the people who are doing that type of work. Continue, because I will continue to support.
Thank you for your service. So with this, when we are kind of stretching these letters, we're making a selection and then we're just transforming that selection, right? And because it only is those active pixels of the black, it's only moving those. So
100%.
in Fresco, if you can see, there are layers there. And so if there are those little like check box marks, that means there's nothing there. And if you try to transform it, nothing's going to transform. So when we select, it's only transforming the black part because that's the only piece that has active pixels on it.
Yep. And to do that, you go over, click on your layer, and there's a load as selection. So that will grab everything, but if you want to you can use the whip and just grab the section that you're looking for, like Andrew said.
Boom.
So, and then there's a button down here that says transform, so that's when you can kind of manipulate it. Yeah. So I will continue cleaning this up a little bit.
And we're almost there. Only one word left. And someone saying this is looking amazing already. I agree. One of the best texture techniques, and we're going to throw out hot tips during this whole stream, Jack.
Yes.
One of the best texture techniques I've ever seen, which is so crazy. One of my favorite designers, Ben Stafford, incredible designer, he would print things in reverse. So it would be black type or black background with white. And he would print it so that it was darker. And then he would sprinkle salt on his scanner and then scan it, and it would give it that like printed ink texture because the salt would show up as white.
What?
And I was like, that's so smart. And then he just like wipes away the salt when he's done, and it gives it like this perfect painted ink texture, just throwing a bunch of salt on the scanner. I thought it was genius.
Now I gotta go home.
Yes.
Now I gotta go home and try that because that sounds amazing.
Yes. And Mark, we are lettering Go With Your Gut. And we are going to be animating it, doing some Kinetic typography. And why are we going with our gut? What is the inspirational message that you have here?
So I like to do, when I do a lot of these, I like to do very human-based phrases because I feel like they give me also the inspiration when I kind of go back. I have some that I made hanging up on my wall, and I feel like sometimes we don't listen to, most of us have the ability already. It's already there, but we don't know how to kind of connect to that. So in making this piece, my hope was like, maybe today you decide to go with how what you think or how you're feeling inside instead of worrying about what everybody else is doing or someone else told you to do this. So I just want us all to kind of, you already know, you be yourself, be weird. I always find it funny. I think it was Amy or Jen. They were just like, in every moment, try to be as weird as you authentically can be. Yep. And remember back when you felt like the weird kid. Why did you feel that way? And try to tap into that.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
What a great message.
It's wholesome. It's so wholesome. Because I don't know, through life, we kind of get rid of that stuff because we don't feel like it's necessary. But it's...
Yeah, and especially in the creative industry, you see trends, you see other people doing stuff, and you're like, oh no, my thing is too weird or too different.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not.
It's unique, and that's what's valuable about us as creatives is the perspective that we bring. We say the same message in different ways, and so it's always nice to like get a new experience with a message that's familiar, right? We've seen all these letters before, probably hundreds of thousands of times. We've seen G's and O's and W's all the time, but we've never seen them in this specific configuration. My goodness, those are two words to go together. So tell it with your perspective, and we've never seen it from how Kameron does it.
Yeah. And one thing that was really wild is I had decided that like I wanted to stop like looking for other people's work and like what does my work look like. And I took a couple of weeks and just like lettered every night. And what came out of it kind of came out of it. I let the inspiration kind of come in and do. And this is what came out of that exercise. And everyone was like, that's really cool. And I was like, wait, I just did that out of my head. Like it wasn't anything that was special. So it's like kind of reminds you that you have to do what feels right for you to kind of find that special point within you. So
do you have any like keywords you use to describe your work, or like when you're creating, do you think about like, here's how I define my work?
Yeah, it would be bold 100%. Gritty is another one that I like to say, or dirty. And then kind of don't overthink it is kind of how I like to. Our best work is already there, like I said. So you kind of just have to go with what you're feeling. And solve the problem. With this stuff, it's not like a bunch of problem solving, but when I'm doing like my branding work and stuff like that, first off, what are we trying to do here is really a good place to start. And then like, can we creatively find a way to do that is kind of the job. But I like to not sit and think of things. At the beginning, when I first started, I used to have that problem where it was like with the looking for inspiration. It'd be days looking for inspiration, but you kind of know what you're already needing. So go with what you feel in the beginning.
Yep.
So.
And someone is saying that they want to add authentic and genuine as words to describe your work as well.
That's wild.
Yes.
Those
and
are
Twilight
wild
Village commenting first. Thanks for joining us, Twilight Village. You know what? We'll say that you're first. We're restarting the chat right now, and you are first. Nice to see you. And with that, let us know where you're watching from, chat. We would love to know. We see a lot of people here from the freelance and business and stuff community, but where are you watching from? We are here live in San Francisco. Yeah. Kameron, where are you based?
I'm in Phoenix.
That's right.
So this is my first time like actually being in the city of San Francisco. I think the wildest thing is when I was in my Uber yesterday to see all the houses on the hills, the way that they're stacked. I was like, that is, because I mean, you watch Full House and you're like, that's cool. And then you come and see it and it's like, that's different.
It's
like,
different.
Yeah.
Everything's like on like a little tilt here.
Yeah. And then I was talking to Johnny yesterday about kind of things to do, and he's like, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff, but it's on weird hills.
Yes.
And I'm like,
there's a lot of intense walking here. All right, so we're going here. We got about an hour left. Yep. And so this eventually we're going to run through Illustrator into After Effects as the workflow, right?
Yep. So we'll say that I have a copy that is complete. So next we will take
baking show.
Yes, baking
and
show.
then 5 minutes later.
That's the I want to.
That's what we do here.
So we'll go over to that copy, and I'll kind of show the workflow of getting it over into Photoshop and Illustrator. So one thing about this brush is it's pretty dark, so that we don't really have to worry about having to go in and do levels. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll take it into Photoshop, use levels to darken it so that it's dark enough to take into Illustrator and use an image trace. Because it's so dark, you can take it pretty much into Illustrator, but I'll show both processes so you can kind of see how that goes.
Sweet. And when we go into Illustrator and we start doing image trace, one of my favorite things is to have people open the settings panel to look at all the settings that you use for your image trace. Because I think especially when you're working with texture, like some people will use the basics and then some people will have like their own secret ones. They're like, these are the settings that I like to use. So when we get there, chat, we'll be sharing all of the numbers with you so that you can get some nice textures out of your scans.
Okay. So, and one thing that I haven't explained yet, so what this is all about is basically I'm making a goal chain. So again, going back to my roots, the hip hop culture, it was always a thing that when you became like affiliated with a new record label, they called it chaining day, and you would get a chain to go with kind of being a part of that record label. So I thought that was cool, and I was like, let's kind of make something around that experience is what I did.
Yes. Welcome to Gut Records. That's it. Signed.
So we'll go and we'll hit this button up here, and there'll be a publish and export. So you'll want to click that, and then you will click export as, and then you'll have different settings, and you can actually title it too. So let's title it Adobe Live 2024, March 5th.
Final to revised V7. Yeah, we know.
And then you can pick formats. So you can pick PNG, JPEG, PDF, PSD. I normally use PSD because it will reserve the layers. So I'll export it.
And what's really cool is if we wanted to, we're not going to do it today, but if we wanted to, we could go from Fresco to PSD and then PSD directly into Adobe Express, and it would maintain all of our layers, any of those effects that we did, and then we could animate in Adobe Express very, very simply. But you could do that if you're working from Fresco to Express. Export as a PDF or PSD, and it will bring into Express with all of your layers.
Dope. So I'll airdrop over to my laptop.
Easy peasy.
Easy.
And chat, let's go ahead, and I want to know about your work, chat. How would you describe your work? I know there are a lot of people, and I see a lot of people in chat that have kind of signature looks or styles. Wade's in there. The Hoods are in there. Natasha. I know that Ethan Silva's in there. Let us know, how would you describe your work? Because I'm very interested in how all of you understand the way that you create on your own. And so, we almost had a drink spill, but we hadn't opened the can yet, chat. That was almost disastrous. Everybody put like a sweating emoji in chat for that. All right, so we are in Photoshop, and we actually have all of our layers here, right?
Everything that was made over in Fresco is here now. So some of those other pieces that I made. So I wanted to zoom in and kind of show the texture that came from that brush. So we're not going to be able to keep all the texture. I like kind of having the texture around the outside, and most of the time that stays around with some of these processes. So you'll come in, you have to make sure that you have a background, and then you'll go to right here and you'll find levels. And then you'll want to adjust all the way to, when you come to the left, it gets lighter. Ooh. And then when you come to the right, it gets darker. So you want to go as far as the right as you can. And then from here, what I'll most of the time do is, again, I don't know if this is perfect, but I will put these all together. I'll merge into one layer. And then I'll go to blending options and pull the white out. So
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if you have to do all that, but it's just worked the best for me. And then I will leave it there, and then we already have Illustrator open. So let me open a file. That's what we're building.
Sweet. And while you do that, I am going to look at another way to do those layers to see if you can maintain the backgrounds. Okay. So I'm not there yet, but if this does work, chat, I'm going to pretend like I knew that it was going to work the whole time, and I'm going to show you a tip. If not, then we're going to pretend like nothing happened.
And so I'm going to drag this over into Illustrator now, and then it'll come over as a image. So I can come up here to image trace. I don't do anything special with image trace. I just use the standard. I normally just go black and white logo with this kind of stuff, and then it will image trace it, and then I come back to this button here for the more settings and go ignore color. So that'll drop out the white.
Cool.
And then you expand it, and now it is a vector. And that is important because when we get into After Effects, we're going to use a plugin, and everything to use that plugin, the things that you have to be vectors. If they're not vectors, you have to export them first, and there's just more effort that you have to do.
Yes. Okay. So it did work. Okay. I don't even know if we have my screen set up to share. Studio Manager Paco?
He does.
He does. Okay, cool. So here is a little tip for you and for all of our viewers at home. So if you are working with a file and you have a lot of different adjustments you're doing, right? We have our base art here, and then we added for yours, we added that threshold, if we added anything else. If you don't want to destroy this and you want to still know like what layers you use to get there and keep all of your layers, basically you can turn off your background, and the hotkey for this, are you ready, chat? Command Option Shift E.
Ooh, okay.
And what that's going to do, so all three of those, Command Option Shift E, what it's going to do is it's going to make a layer of everything that is visible. So it's going to compress everything that's visible and make a new layer of it. And so that way you keep all of your extra like adjustments, but you have a layer now that's exactly the same that is flattened down. So instead of flattening your layers, that way you can just keep everything in your PSD without destroying it. So little hot tip for you there.
Love that.
There we go.
Really dope.
All right, moving back to yours, we are going to be going from Illustrator into After Effects, right?
For sure.
Cool.
So now we're going to bring in all the pieces that we made over in, this is some of the inspiration. So that was already on my board. But we're going to bring in some of those pieces from Photoshop that were in that Fresco document. So again, it's the same process. These ones are a little darker, so I'm not going to do the full levels. I'm just going to drag these. So we're going to...
And we can, again, we can like copy and paste these into Illustrator.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways you can do it. And if you're working in Adobe Express, you can copy and paste directly from Illustrator or Photoshop into Adobe Express. These little pieces add so much character. Like they're just simple little things, but they add so much character, and they're gonna add so much fun once you get into animating.
Yes. So that is those pieces. We're going to work with, so next what I would come in here and do is kind of build a style frame. And I want to build everything here before I ever get to After Effects. The reason for that is once you get into After Effects, again, things get a little wild and you don't want to be trying to like adjust vectors in After Effects.
Yes.
I saw a meme the other day, and it was like when I accidentally opened up After Effects, and it was a guy strapped into a rocket ship.
Yeah.
So I always think people are really afraid of After Effects, but I think there's some things here that we can kind of talk about that make After Effects a little bit more approachable. The first thing being how you kind of move from Illustrator into After Effects.
Yep.
So,
and if you are wondering what After Effects does, here's the basic overview: is it takes your art and you can either move it, scale it, or rotate it. Like those are three good, very basic ways to start in After Effects. And so if you want to get started from Illustrator to After Effects, we're going to show you some of that today, so you can add just a little bit of extra oomph to your designs in Illustrator.
For sure. So I took here and I took the extra chain piece and I built out the chain.
Oh, that's cool.
So this is that chain built out. And then for color, I really wanted to go with gold, of course, and black.
Why not?
They just work so well together. But I ended up falling on this orange here that is in my color palette that I use all the time. But to make these things a little bit more less flat, because sometimes things get very flat, I'll go and let me break this apart, or no, it's up here. I'll go and add a little bit of a gradient. So this has the smallest bit of a gradient. This is a little bit lighter of an orange, which is the one here, and then this is a little bit darker.
Yep.
So I'll pin that, or I'll mask that behind the shape, and that kind of gives you a little bit extra. And then when we go to add texture to it, it just all looks so amazing. So the same thing is here with the chain. There's the tan, and then there's a little bit of a gradient here in the corner, and that's using the freeform gradient tool.
Yes, and if you're ever scared of the freeform gradient tool, it's super easy. Think of it as you're dropping water balloons into the shape that have different colors in them. You can see those dots, and if you're dropping a water balloon, it's going to explode and meld those colors together. So you can play around with it. You can create some really, really cool gradients using that tool.
Yeah, and then a way to make the color stronger within the gradient is this little button here, and you'll grab and drag that. And so that, if I pull it all the way out, it makes the darker color more dominant in the gradient. So.
Yep. And what's cool, again, if you're thinking of it as water balloons, you're just making a bigger water balloon.
Yeah.
You can see that little circle, and it's just how far that color is going to explode and then bleed into the other one. So there we go. We're having a rain of water just dropping them.
So it's a really fun tool to use. When it got added, it was really nice to finally have one that was a little bit more freeform instead of linear. And
Yes.
I use it all the time.
Yeah, big shift in workflows with that.
And so with this type here, it's just the type on a path. So you go and I always do it this way. I go and create a circle, shift, and then you go to the type tool, hold option, and then click, and it will start typing on the path.
Yep, and you can see that it will have the normal type tool. If you hover over the shape, it will have the circle, which is the area type tool. But if you go right on that line, it will do the type on a path for you.
And then you can just turn it if you need to here. So yeah, that's how that was kind of set up. And then these are just circles. And then if you can see, there's this shine here inside the chain. That is done by, again, this piece right here. So I went and made some lines, just straight squares. They were kind of here, and then went to the direct select tool, grabbed the top corners, and just tilted until I felt like it was at a tilt that I liked. And then you can make all the squares first, which is probably the easiest. So I would go make this square and then make another square and make it smaller, and then direct select all of the top and then click and drag.
I love how much of this process, and I think that creatives will relate to this, how much of this process is kind of like, yeah. And I think that that's how we all work, and that's why I love Adobe Live and seeing other people's processes, because you get to see that it's not like, oh my gosh, he totally knows what he's doing, and it's fully dialed in. It's a lot of does this work?
Yeah. And so I'll go, and we have this right here will be the mask, and then you'll go and hit Command 7, and then that does it's just gonna ignore me. The clipping mask.
Yes.
So this one I know works.
Boom.
So that's what it'll look like once you clipping mask it.
And we're building everything with layers, right?
Yes. And then that's what it'll look like at 100%. So I just played with the opacity to make it sit over top like that.
And the reason we're building in layers is because we know we're taking this to After Effects to animate those individual layers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I use a plugin called Overlord to kind of get to After Effects. So I will open up a new file, or I'll show how I set up a file in After Effects to kind of work from there. I'll go to New Project, and then we'll save this one. New composition, and then for square I usually go 1440 or 1080 times 2, just to be a little bit bigger than 1080 is kind of the idea. I work a lot at 8 frames per second, so a lot of my stuff is really clicky, kind of crawly.
We're going for 90s GIF quality.
Yeah, and it's I feel like that's another piece of that human not so smooth. It's just, what's wrong with that? Why is it moving that way? A lot of people are like, oh, that's your signature thing. And I was like, yeah, I kind of do it. Most people don't know what's going on though. But that's how I achieve that, is at 8 frames per second. And then you hit OK. Oh, caps lock was on. And then, so this is at this point, this is where I would start sending things over. I will explain a couple of these. I have a couple plugins here that I use often. There's one called Flow, and it helps with setting up your keyframes. So we'll talk more about that. There's one called Motion 4, and this helps with positioning where your anchor point is. I'll show that also. And then I use one that's called Tinker Type. We won't use that a lot. today. But that allows me to, if I set up an animation style for a word, I can copy that animation style onto another word.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, so it works very well. And so I'll go show Overlord now. Photoshop can get out of here. And so let's start with this star here. So I'll come over to Overlord and I'll click this button right here and it says push selection to After Effects and it'll send it right over. But sometimes it doesn't put it in the middle. So I click the motion for here, align center, there. And
where are you? There we
in
go.
the middle.
It just kind of throws it. And what I think is happening there, and Chad, if you're ever missing something, what usually happens, especially with Illustrator, if you're copying and pasting from Illustrator, it's taking your entire working area and not the actual artboard. And so it will paste it like in the working area over here when the artboard is actually over here.
Because I think it's pulling from this artboard. So yeah.
Totally.
Doing that. And the good thing about this is you can also take multiple things. So say I want to take this and this and this, it's not going to take this over here. I can go over here into Overlord and I can put them in a group and then I can tell Overlord to separate them, split shapes into layers.
Oh, interesting.
And then it'll go in, it'll pull all those layers in on their own.
Oh, that's so helpful. And now we can move all those pieces independently.
So if everything is vector within the piece that you're building, you could do it all in one shot. There's a couple things where it's kind of iffy, and that is gradients. It does not pull gradients, and then type on a path does not pull over well.
Yep.
So that's why you see me picking and choosing kind of what I'm pulling over.
So and can we maximize our space? Can you just double click to maximize the Illustrator window?
Yep.
Perfect.
Did that work?
Where's the thing? Yeah, there's usually a thing, right?
Yeah, I don't know where it is. It's been going. There it goes.
More space.
So yeah, so now we're at the point where we have all of our pieces and we want to take all of those pieces over into After Effects. And then we'll start bringing things over here and naming our layers or changing colors so we understand what's going on. I'm going to open up the file that I was already working on just so that we can kind of see where we're at.
Cool.
Adobe Live.
Where are we?
Where
lost in in the eternal layers of folders.
Yep, there we go. Don't save. So this is the version. Okay, there's something I didn't explain. So the reason that these are two artboards is because kind of the animation that I want for this is for it to start in the top where it says when in doubt, and when in doubt will spin, and then the chain will come up and it'll say go with your gut. So I'm building it with two artboards so that I know when it's being presented in, let's say, in Instagram, that's how it will move between those two squares. That's why I built it that way. And so when we come over into After Effects, you only see half of it. And that's because there's motion that will kind of go with that.
And then we can move everything. Can we maximize this window as well?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Okay.
Yes.
There we go. So let's isolate some pieces so that we can explain kind of what's going on. We'll start with the chain. And the chain has and there we go. It's going to move up. So the chain is made up of a vector, which is that chain design. And then it's also made up of a color. So this is, I'm going to unlink them. It's called using a mat. And that's in After Effects. You use them all the time. Basically a clipping mask. It's the same thing.
Yep.
So I'll go and unlink them so that you can see both. So this is, this is the mask. And that's what that looks like. And so basically the mask is the thing that's moving. And then we have a color that is also moving along with that. We'll talk about the movement of it in a second. But if I want the color to fill that vector, I go over here to the matte and I want to turn on the mask being the matte for the color.
Yep. And a great way to think about this is you're basically making the window and what's outside of the window. So here,
Yes.
the color is what's outside the window, and then the top object, the matte, is basically saying, hey, this is the shape of the window. I want this window to show what is outside of that window. And here you can see that color is outside the window, and then the shape of the window is our text and our vector shape that we had brought in.
Yep. Okay. And so that's now the chain. We've built the chain out. And then the other thing, there's the other pieces that we kind of want to build from there. And that will be
all the layers.
all of the layers. So the chain, and then
And someone in chat was saying, I'm stressed. Don't be stressed. We're here. We're here to help you.
I will help you out too, because
yes.
I understand. So if you highlight all of your layers and you hit U, it'll show you everything that has a keyframe attached to it. If you hit U again, it'll close everything.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so it'll allow you to kind of go and see what you're looking for, which was part of my problem. That's why I was seeing keyframes over here with everything.
Yes.
And that's why I was like, throwing me off a little bit. So this is the whole piece. If we want to go look at the shine that goes across, the shine is right here. So that's that piece that we made that is just it's down here. Just those squares going across it.
Yep.
So that is, again, made up of the vector of the chain, and then the squares going inside of that vector.
Yep.
And that's done the same way.
We got about 25 minutes left, and so
Okay.
we're making some progress here, getting some animation in. Where are we going next? What are kind of the pieces that we want to get this?
So now we just now that we have everything inside the file,
Yep.
we have it the way we want it to look, we're going to play with exit timing and keyframes and things like that.
Sweet. And like we said, After Effects is really good for spinning things,
Yes.
for moving things, and we're going to start showing you how to do that.
Yes.
And very easily, again, you can bring these in if you are working in Illustrator and then apply the things we're about to show you very easily to add some extra oomph to your design.
Yes. And that's this is, to be honest, this is the first time that I've taken a lettering piece and brought it into After Effects and actually animated it.
Yes.
So you're getting a first here.
We're learning together.
And so I want to show the thing that is moving everything is called here a null. So a null, you can, again, parent layers to the null, and the null will do all the heavy lifting. So in here we have some position keyframes, and when you hit the keyframe, it moves it up.
Boom, boom.
So everything is just attached to that. And the way that I want to think about this is I want to create one loop. I create one loop, and then I can duplicate that loop at the end once I'm done with it. So we have that. We have some spinning going on with the when in doubt, and that is just done, again, right here. We have some rotation keyframes, and I'll show you what it looks like to set up keyframes. So I'll get rid of these ones. You can highlight them, and then just click delete, and that'll get rid of keyframes for you.
Bye.
But to start keyframes, you click the watch, and then how long you decide where do you want this to stop spinning, basically. And this is set up as rotation and angle. So this would be one full rotation if I put a 1 in here. So 1. So by the time it gets to that other keyframe, it's one full rotation around.
Yes. And if you're rotating by degrees, this is just a little pro tip. Don't rotate by 360 degrees if you're going to be looping, because then you will have 2 frames that are at the 360 degree because you're at 0 and 360. So loop by 359 degrees if you're using degrees and looping, because then the next degree is 0 again. And so you won't get a stutter on your loop.
I think you might have solved something. I think you helped me with something.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah. So if I want to ease, so the next thing would be like if I want to ease these keyframes. So easing is kind of how the keyframes behave. Right now they're linear. So it goes here and then it goes here. No real change in kind of how that happens. I this is what I use flow for, and I will apply this easing to those keyframes. So I just highlight them and then hit apply, and it will move slower in the beginning, move fast in the middle, move slow again at the end.
And think of easing like a roller coaster. When you see that little loop right there, it is the amount of speed, right? It's going to be faster coming down, and then it's going to ease out once it gets to the bottom.
So I kind of like the way that feels. You're just like anticipating it.
Yeah, it feels really organic.
Yeah. And so next I want to, something that I see happening is I kind of want the star in the background to move a little bit faster than it's moving right now. So I'm going to find the star and close that up so we don't have all these open sections. We're going to go to, I also label your layers. It might not matter as much in Illustrator, but it matters a lot in After Effects.
It does.
It's just so much harder to see sometimes.
I am very much team, like, I never name my layers, but if I'm going to After Effects, everything is getting the most specific name possible because it gets way crazy.
So I want the scale to kind of go a little bit faster. To do that, I will shrink the space that's in between the two keyframes. So I'm going to pull this back. And then now let's see how it feels. Yeah.
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 And our friend Bree is giving you a trophy because this is looking real good.
Dope. And then I'm going to reset the easing. And then I kind of like that easing on the when in doubt. So I'm going to go in here and apply that easing also to the rotation. So you can set easing to rotation, scale, position, pretty much anything you can add easing to. And so when you're doing that, this is what it looks like. So it changes the graph. Again, slow at the beginning, fast in the middle, slow at the end. It's kind of, you want to know what's so wild is like, I went to college for engineering.
Okay.
And so all this nerdy stuff is like things that I was like, ew, get away from me. And now I'm in After Effects doing it anyway.
Right? That's how I feel about math. I am so bad at math and I hated math. And then I was like, design is so much math. Why is there so much math happening?
So much math.
Which, pro tip here, chat, if you don't know how to do the math on something, you can actually do math equations in most of the dialog boxes in Adobe programs. So if you need it to be, like we said, 1920 or 1080 times 2, you can literally type in 1080 times 2 and it will do the math for you in that dialog box.
Yep.
Pro tip. We're here to make you not do math.
With Illustrator all the time. I'll be like, divide by 2 here. So what we're going to do next is add some more of these. We have a couple of these shine points right here, but I want to add a couple more. So I'm going to go here. I'm calling them glint. And I will hit Command D to duplicate. And so that will make it, the keyframes will be exactly the same as the object that you duplicated it from. So if I wanted to take, and I'll trim it on that side, trim it on the front, just so it's a little closer to kind of what's actually going on. And then I want to take and move these keyframes to a different position. So I'm going to go over to Glint 3, click it, hit P, and that gives me position. And I don't want to start or lay down any keyframes. I just want to move this thing around. So I can start moving it around this way, or I can find where it's clickable and I can drag it. So you can pretty much drag it and lay it anywhere you want to lay it. Ooh, that's slow.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, we're thinking real hard about that one right there.
And so you can go and lay it wherever you want to lay it. So I kind of want to bring it forward a little bit more. Yeah.
This is looking good.
Yeah, that's really fun. I also wanted it to have like a little bit of a rock in when it did come up, when the chain is just the only thing that's there. So again, we'll go to move everything. We'll open up the keyframes here. I think that will be a rotation. So we'll go and lay down a keyframe, and then we'll go a little bit further. And this is where you were talking earlier, where it's like, oh, I think that's enough. This is one of those moments where it's like, so we're gonna go and we're gonna kind of rotate it a little bit.
Oh yeah, a little like,
yeah, a little sway. And then I'm gonna copy this keyframe here, which should be 0, and it's gonna come back to 0. Or maybe it should go the other way. So let's go -2 on that one. And let's kind of see what that looks like.
Oh, that's so cool.
And if I want that to go slower the other way, I can pull those keyframes apart. Yeah, and then we want to kind of ease back into 0.
And when we did this at, I believe you said 8 frames, right?
Yeah.
Is that going to affect like our preview here? Is that going to affect the final export? Is that what we're seeing?
That's what we're seeing.
Okay,
so the
cool.
8 frames per second is what we're seeing right now. All of it's math.
Yep.
So the way that these segments are set up, it is for 8 frames a second. So if you zoom in, it shows you each segment, each frame here.
Okay. Interesting. So in theory, you could do something like this in like Photoshop
Yes.
and frame by frame. And what you're doing here is you're basically doing that frame by frame animation, but just animating it and then taking it down to look like a frame by frame.
Yes.
I love that. That's so fun to get that style. And then you can do like the high quality export if you wanted to.
1,000,000%.
But you have the cool style that you want of taking that down.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot. And maybe it's a little smoother in between here, so I'll add some easing. We'll see what that looks like. Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot.
That's so fun.
So it's kind of the whole thing. And we'll add some more glint to the end too.
Heck yeah.
Oh, that's sick.
That's dope. So we have about 20 minutes left, chat. If you have suggestions that you want to see, if you have any ideas, if you have questions for us, please put them in the chat. We are watching. And Amy is saying the simple shine does so much. Yes, I agree. Like, especially having the shine go across and then another little bing kind of pop up. It reminds me of the Sega logo.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You know, there's a Sega, and then it has the thing in a little like pop-up.
Yeah.
And someone's saying, how long did this animation take to make and illustrate and animate? What is your start to finish time? We did it pretty much on the stream.
Yeah.
If you're doing this from scratch, what's your work time?
Probably illustrating. I try not to take like lettering. I try not to be too precious about it. So that would probably maybe be an hour, hour and a half. Getting everything into Illustrator and like conceptualizing what we want and get all the pieces there. That's probably the longest piece. And that's what I've learned from a lot of other animators. They're like, if you can build something that's beautiful in Illustrator, taking it over to After Effects and animating it is easy because you already have like all the pieces there.
Interesting.
So that probably took maybe 2.5 hours. And then animating was probably an hour, hour and a half. So
that's not too bad at all.
yeah, it's not, I didn't spend a ton of time on all the pieces, but again, that's kind of what the go with your gut. So I'm making decisions really quickly. I'm not wasting any time trying to like, should I do this or should I do that? No, what feels right, go with it.
Yep.
Is kind of the idea.
Okay, so from here, are we going to add some more stuff? Are we ready to export? Where are we in your brain?
We
with the
are
project?
going to export now. I will show kind of, so this section right here is your work area. So what will be exported is whatever is inside of this box that I'm moving around here.
Okay.
So I want to kind of go and make a loop. So what I need to do is, right now it's going down, coming up. So I would need to reverse everything that is happening, that has happened, to kind of get it back to that first state. So we're going to go to the move everything here, which has most of our pieces in it. It deals with most of the motion of the piece. So we're going to take, and we can just copy keyframes from here because we don't have to do anything, and we'll paste. So
And
we'll copy that.
are we
one.
trying to loop it back to 1 is the idea?
Yep. And then we will take this one.
And so when you're posting this stuff, are you making GIFs? Are you making videos? What do you do with most of this when you're actually putting it out there?
When I'm putting it out there, I'm usually Instagram Reels or videos is kind of where it lives. I'd like to have that stuff be the first thing that people see, especially with my brand clients. It's very funny because it's like when people see you doing your authentic work, they're like, I want that. Like, not necessarily for my work, but to find someone who will go and make the things that are in their head, they kind of respect that.
Yep.
So if it comes out really good, which I think this one will, I'll pin it to the top of my Instagram or something. And then it comes back down. So what we have to do now is reverse the circle or the star. And so the star is here. We'll want to do these keyframes, but just in reverse. And that is like right here. Paste, copy, paste. Oh, I'm Command C, Command Ving.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yep, just basic hotkeys there.
Yeah. And then.
And yes, someone's saying, Cameron on IG, yes, go give a follow and check out some of that work. See what's pinned.
Yeah. My favorite stuff is up there. And so now it'll kind of reverse on out. And now we're at the beginning. So I've created a loop, and the beginning is the same as the end, majority of it. And then it'll come back, swing, and then
ding ding.
Down. And so with the work area, I want to take the work area and bring it up to where that loop starts, or where that loop is now exactly like the beginning.
Yep.
And so if I wanted to, I can go and put a couple loops here. So I can go and take everything that's in here, or Command A, and I can turn it into a pre-comp, which is basically, if you work in Premiere, it's a nest. It's putting everything in its own file. So I'm gonna pre-compose these, and I'll call it Full Annie, and then hit OK. So now if I wanted to go and do a couple of them, I could take, and I'll trim it there.
Someone's saying shortcut N to trim to your work area.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Nice.
I also believe you can use I and O to trim your in and out point. That might just be a Premiere Pro, but I'm not sure, but great to work. And we're working now in like a nested sequence, basically.
So now it's nested, and you can go and do a couple loops if you needed to. So say you needed to make it 30 seconds. So now you can go in there and make a couple loops, and they'll come back down, and then it'll do the animation again. And then from here, my work area now has the 2 loops in it. So I can go, I can go and go to File, Export, Add to Render Queue. And then I mostly do, when I export, I click on High Quality, and I change the format to H.264. Works the best for Instagram. And then where are you going to output it to? And I'll just output it to my downloads, and I'll call it Go With Your Gut. And then hit save. And then it'll render here within.
Whoa. Oh, yeah. Oh, whoa. All right. Done. I love the sound. It's like, done.
Yeah,
we
it's
did
my
it.
favorite. That sounds so amazing. And then I'll go, and there's your piece.
So let's do something. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's so rad. And then loose
so
back.
sick. Yeah.
That's cool. So we do have like 15, 20 minutes left. Let's do something here, an experiment that I'm going to walk you through.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so let's go to Adobe Express, and we're going to try to do a quick action in Adobe Express. So express.adobe.com in your browser.
Wrong one. I had one that was empty already set up. Express.adobe.com. Oh, you gotta spell Express right, huh?
Sometimes I do that too. The amount of times that I'm like, this is the website. I'm like, oh,
I
no,
thought I
this
put
is
it
on
in
me.
the browser
This
window.
is on me.
Now I look crazy. Y'all think that
he's Googling the, yes. So what we're going to do is we are going to scroll down a little bit. So go ahead and, scroll down a little bit, and there is a section in quick actions right there that should be convert to GIF. I believe it's like the
it's right
fifth
here.
one in right there. Yep.
Yeah.
And so this is a really great workflow if you want to post this in a text message, if you want to send this in an email or something, you can take that animation and then convert to a GIF. So we can choose high quality, low quality, for sure. Let's keep it in medium.
Yeah.
You can change the orientation of what you want it to do. It's going to analyze that for you. And then once it's analyzed, you can download. And this is going to convert it to a GIF very quickly. It's going to take just a second to upload that and then export it. But it'll convert it to a GIF for you. It will loop that GIF, I believe. I say that now, and then in like 20 seconds, it's not going to loop. But now we have our GIF. And so if we just drag the GIF into the browser, it should open.
Oh.
I think that's how it works. Just drag it into like the open area space. This is how I do it usually. There we go.
Oh, that's so sick.
There we go. Knowledge is power. Pro tips here. And does it loop? It does. Loops all the way through.
Nice.
And so this is really great if you're creating like stickers to like send on Insta, if you're sending things to your friends in text message. And yes, up to 1 gigabyte. Yes, huge files can get converted into GIFs. I use it specifically for emails. I have a lot of clients that are like, hey, I want like a movie email. And you're like, well, I can't embed a video in email, but I can do a GIF. And so you can take a clip from their video and embed it as a GIF using that quick action.
You've given me a couple things today that I'm like, I got it. Because I'm always trying to make, I think I try to do it out of After Effects sometimes, and sometimes the file is just too large. That it doesn't work well.
And it's interesting that I think Adobe Express does a couple things better than like the programs that it comes from. Like the remove background in Adobe Express, I think is better than Photoshop.
Okay, I need to
like
start using
converting to GIFs here is better.
Okay.
You can make QR codes. There's a bunch of quick actions that you can do. You can convert from a like MPEG into an MP4 on there. It's like there's a lot of quick actions. Actually, can you go back to the page?
Yeah.
And so if you're used to doing stuff in other places, these quick actions here, if you have a Creative Cloud membership, they are all just available to you, and they're really good and sometimes better than other places. You can convert to PDF, generate QR codes. There are a ton of quick actions that you can work with here. And show of hands in chat, how many of you have used Adobe Express? If you haven't used Adobe Express, it's really good and it's really fun. Please use Adobe Express.
Yeah, I'm going to now, like, especially with the removed background. Sometimes it gets iffy, but if this is better, I will definitely be using it.
And you're saying, Andrew, can you remove background on videos as well? Heck yeah, you can.
What?
It's crazy. It basically has a like green screen effect that you can see on like TikTok or something, and you can remove the backgrounds on videos, which is really cool. Okay, so we got about 15 minutes left here. Let's take one more look at our final animation they created, and then I have an idea of something that we can do. And yes, Bree, Oliver, lots of people, Michael learning some Adobe Express, yes, Paloma some as well. All right, so let's go through whole process.
Okay.
We started with Sketch. Walk us through what we created today.
Yeah, so we started with Fresco. We created the lettering illustration in Fresco, and then from Fresco, we went into Photoshop. We'll show what we created in. Let me close these. So this is what we created in Fresco. And then we brought it over here, used levels to kind of make it darker if we needed to. And then we moved over into Illustrator and took those illustrations from Fresco and used image trace to get them to be vectors. And then we took those vectors and all the pieces that we made here to make a stylescape for our animation. So this is what, if you were to open the window up all the way in After Effects, this is what the piece would look like in After Effects. Or this. I love doing that also.
Wait, hold on. What hotkey was that?
I made my own.
Oh, and it hides. You're basically viewing the trim area. Is what it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you can do that. I believe you go to View, and then you can turn on Trim View. And it's funny because I use that all the time in InDesign. Never use it in Illustrator.
What?
Like,
I love it in Illustrator.
I am the guy that will put like in chat. I'm gonna make this a poll in a second, chat. I'm the guy that puts the blocks. I'll literally just put rectangles on the edges of like
Are
the
they the
light
same
color.
color
Yeah.
as the-
Yeah, I just set it as the color of the background and then just put rectangles over it to like make it look
That's-
like it's in the artboard.
Hey man, sometimes you gotta. I just believe sometimes you just have to go with what works. Quickly.
Yes. And chat, I am going to put up a poll because I am curious how many of you know about this. Have you used Trim View in Illustrator? Trim View in Illustrator.
But I use it all the time because sometimes you'll be making like, say you're making like a document for a client and you have some things that go inside the bleed. I always really want to know what it looks like. It makes me feel better when I know what it looks like.
Yes.
Trimmed off. So
Yes. I don't, like, I have literally never used it. I use it in InDesign every single time I use InDesign because InDesign has a hotkey. It's just W.
it does. It is just
and so I
it's
think
very
turning
easy.
on and off Trim View, to me, it makes it a little bit weird and wonky. What's the Illustrator W? Illustrator W hotkey is the blend tool. Okay, so I can reassign that.
Yeah.
You could reassign that if you want to so that you have the Trim View there. And yes, people are angry about not using Trim View.
That's one thing that I
with it.
do like though, is that you can set those hotkeys the way that you want to set them.
Yes.
So, and that's
Can
really
you show us
cool.
how to set your own custom hotkey?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So let's see if I can make it over there.
I know. I'm trying to think too. I was gonna show and I was like, I don't know if I remember. Let's see if he does.
Maybe it's
Chat, if you can help us, chat, please do. It's not there.
Oh
It's not here. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Did you find it?
no, not yet.
Chat, please help us here. Yes, because chat is asking, can you assign hotkeys? Both of us are furiously just clicking through
To find it.
To find things. I thought it was in settings.
I thought it was in settings. Keyboard shortcuts.
Keyboard shortcuts. Where is it? Edit.
Yeah.
Edit keyboard shortcuts. There
Yep.
you go, chat. And you can make basically any tool or any thing into whatever key you want.
Yep.
What's really fun is you also, if you have a computer with a number pad, like it has like the side numbers. I use a PC, and so I have a little number pad. You can assign those as separate hotkeys, so it isn't like the number 1. It's like number pad 1 is a hotkey,
Oh.
and so I use that all the time when I'm formatting text.
Nice.
Is I'll set like my headline to like 1, 2, 3, and then I can go through and just highlight and just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
That's awesome.
It's really fun. So this is how you do it. You can set your own preferences here, and just you can see that drop down where it has tools. That's where you would go, and you can see all of the menu commands, everything that is available to you to change and make a hotkey with. You can do it right there.
Yeah. And then menu commands are the things at the top. So.
Yes. So something that I have set up for myself as well, it drives me bonkers that type on a path options is not like a hotkey. You have to like click on type on a path and go to type on a path options, and then do
Yeah.
like center or whatever. So I have a hotkey set up to take me to type on a path options. I also have a hotkey. What's the other one that I use? Blend options. Anything that like makes me click 3 times to go to options.
Blend options is rough.
Yes, because you can make the blend is Control Option Shift C, Control Option Shift B.
Yeah.
You can make the blend, but you can't edit the options, and so you have
Yes.
to go through. So yes, set up your hotkeys how you like them,
Yeah.
and then you can save them, and you actually can download and export them if you want by clicking on that little thing next to the trash can up there.
Right here?
And that way, if you are using a different set of hotkeys, you can take it from computer to computer, or if you are in a great community like the Fabus Slack group, you can share your hotkey setup with them or with your friends. Or I'm guessing you could probably even set up a good hotkey set that you could ship out and put on like some kind of Behance for people to download or whatever. Chad didn't know about this.
That's great. We did it. That's
Learning.
the stream.
Thanks for joining us. Bye, everybody. So yes, you can do this, and you can do this in Illustrator, Photoshop, any Creative Cloud program. You can set up your own hotkeys. So for those of you that are also working in like After Effects and that kind of stuff, you can do it there too. You can customize however you want to customize. I hear a lot of people that are like, "Oh my gosh, it's such a like chore to do this and that." And I'm like, just make a hotkey. Yeah. And yes, Amy Hood saying shipping a hotkey set would be amazing. I agree. I 100% agree. Getting people to learn it would be interesting,
Yes.
but knowing how people work and what doesn't have a hotkey would be really, really beneficial. Okay, so let's keep going. We were in Illustrator. We
Yeah.
got distracted with
Yeah.
hotkeys. So we went from Illustrator, and then where did we go from Illustrator?
From Illustrator, we went over into After Effects. And in After Effects, we will have to go inside these pre-comps. But here we go. What's going on? Let me inside.
Let me in.
So inside the pre-comp, we brought in all the vector pieces, all the gradients, and we used mats to put the gradients with the vectors, and then brought in all the other pieces like the shine and the star, and then animated those with keyframes and easing, and then created just one solid loop, and then exported that work area.
Heck yeah. And then we made a GIF out of it. We exported it as MP4, all kinds of different things. And Natasha, thank you so much for joining us. Natasha's heading out. Bye. And Johnny Niddle saying, hook up those hotkeys to a Stream Deck. Yes, 100%. If you're using a Stream Deck in your design practice, game changer. It is so good because you can have it set up like exports. You can have it set up like all kinds of multi-step actions you can do using a Stream Deck. And they even have a foot pedal if you want to, like if you're done. Yes. So they have a foot pedal. This is such an off topic. They have a foot pedal. And so like if you're done with a project, you can set it up to like hit the foot pedal and then it will like export everything for you.
What?
Magic.
That's sick. That feels like I'm driving a car.
Right? Okay, cool. So we got about 5 minutes left, and we do have more content coming up after this. And so if you want to stick around, we are going to do a little surprise activity for 5 minutes. But after this stream, we are going to be learning about the dimension tool in Adobe Illustrator. It is brand new, and if you are working in packaging design, you can actually measure things directly in Illustrator. Now, again, we talked about not wanting to do math. No more math, not even measurements. You can convert your measurements. You can measure angles. You can measure the size of things. Super, super easy to work. So stick around. Our friend Izzy is coming in right after this stream in about 10 minutes to show you that. So with 5 minutes left,
Let's do it.
here's what I'd love to do.
Okay.
Can we do some Fresco fun? And can we take maybe a name from chat and do a little name letter?
Oh, let's do it.
Let's do it. So chat, what I want you to do is just go ahead and let us know your favorite thing that you learned today. So give us your favorite thing you learned today. I'm going to pick one of you, and we are going to letter your name in the last 5 minutes. It is a lightning round. Wait, hold on. Wait. Lettering lightning round. I love just getting super close to the mic for those. So we're going to do that. We're going to hop over onto the iPad in Fresco and let us know, what did you learn today? My favorite thing that I learned today was the texture techniques that you used, bringing things in, using threshold to kind of pull things back and forth. And we've got Johnny saying something, Doc is saying something, Chris, Amy. Let's do Chris, specifically because of what we talked about. Chris Harrow, Krisharo.
Chris is the best.
And the reason is because equal letters, baby. We talked about it at the beginning of the stream. Sometimes having an equal amount of letters is really, really easy. So we're using that texture brush here. And talk to me about like being put on the spot.
Oh yeah.
What is your vibe to like throw something together like
We're
this?
just gonna go. We're just wherever the letters fall is kind of what it is. If they're all different looks, there's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of how I feel about it.
There's no right and wrong in design. It's just what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And
with this, whatever's right is what I want it to be.
Yes, exactly. It's like, yeah, I don't know, just like whatever comes out, especially because we know that we're getting loosey-goosey with it, like whatever we do is fine. And no pressure, Cam. Yes, no pressure here.
I have zero pressure, guys.
Zero pressure, all good vibes. We are just hanging out here. Ooh, getting stretchy.
Yeah.
And again, we're using that brush, we're using the lasso tool to kind of pull everything together. And again, you can export out of Fresco PSD, PDF. You can do JPEGs, you can do PNGs. There's a bunch of different file types that you can do out of Fresco and really get that nice gritty texture. And I do believe that Fresco has vector brushes as well.
Yes, they do. Yep. Which is really sick.
Yes, and the chat's going off that we just threw the guides out the window. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no time for guides today.
There's no time for guides. When you have 5 minutes to do a lettering piece, no guides. All freeform.
All freeform.
I love
really
this
fun.
brush. It is just so
Isn't it
crunchy.
so good?
Yes. This is something that would take me a ton of time because I'd like go out and buy charcoal and I'd be like trying to like get the textures and the lines and then bring it to Photoshop and piece it together. That it's like, nope, there's a brush for that.
there's a
It's
brush.
just here. This is awesome. Can you tell us a little bit? So we did have a lot of people from the freelance and business stuff Slack. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and a little bit about like what that community means to you? Because I know that it is a very tight knit community. What's the importance of having creative community for you? How did you find it? Tell us all that.
For me, one of the things that I talk about a lot, just on my platform alone, is community is everything. After going through what we all went through in kind of the pause of 2020, I felt like I came out of that like I need more people in my life. It's kind of what I learned from that. I've known Amy and Jen for a little while now, and basically like being in that group is like their personality, but in a group form.
Yes.
So it's very welcoming. Whenever you need help, you need any type of advice, they're there. Other people are there. What I feel like what I am is what is the people that I have around me.
Yes.
So if I don't have the right people around me, then I feel like I would be not me. So that has really changed my life to have creatives, especially in community. I'm a freelancer now, so I don't have coworkers per se, but everybody in Fabas in the Slack channel is my coworker. And you know how you'll go and like water cooler talk with your coworker. I get to do that in that chat and Slack.
That's
kind
really
of
cool.
brings all of that together, but we're all in the same mission of freelancing.
Heck yeah. And that is led by Amy and Jen Hood of Hoodspud Design, two of our favorite people here. We do have a project coming with them very soon. Amy and Jen, I owe you a text. We do have a project coming with them very soon. You'll find out more about that on Friday here on Adobe Live. We are doing a very super secret thing that I will tell you about in the future. So stick around. Follow Adobe Live on social media. That's a great place for you to get connected as well. And we got it. A nice, chunky, crispy version of Chris's name.
Yeah.
Looking good. And we are going to take a break. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Any advice to our friends who are getting in drawing today and getting creative?
Go with your gut.
Go with your
I
gut.
think the
Yes!
product works.
Circling around, that's the end of the stream, y'all. We'll see you back in 5 minutes to learn more about the Dimension tool, which is brand new in Adobe Illustrator. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.